Building Committee. If you wish to join via Zoom or via phone, if you go to the agenda online, you can find the connections and do so that way. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have present this evening, we have Fire Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine, Rick C., I'm David Little. I don't know if Select Board Member Mark Matheson is coming or not. OES Representative Kathy McNamara, Emily Miller, Assistant Town Manager Mark Reel, and Executive Assistant Laura St. John Dupuy. So the first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any? Seeing none, and not seeing Rick Pomeroy.
So
He's online.
Rick is online and he needs
Oh, he
to
is.
be let in.
Okay,
tried-
and so online we have Rick Pomeroy.
I've tried to let him in a few times. It seems like it's auto declining for him to become a panelist. Maybe there's a problem on his end with like a specific setting. I'm not really sure. I've never seen that before.
Well, if you could keep trying in the meantime, Peggy, that'd be great.
It seems less like he's declining and more like an auto decline immediately. I could try ending the Zoom and starting it again.
Whatever you recommend. You're the expert.
Okay, I'm just letting everyone on Zoom know that you're all going to get kicked out, but then it'll start again in about 10 seconds.
Sounds good.
Specific to him, or Tina could get in or something.
So if you don't mind holding on for just a couple of minutes, we'll see if we can get Rick on board.
Yeah, it seems like the same thing's happening this time. It may be a setting on his end.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead, and Ted and Paolo, would you like to begin? And hopefully Rick can join us, and he'll go second.
Good evening, everyone. Great. Good evening. I did speak to Rick, and he said he would be joining if he can, and we can catch up if we need to with him. So I'm going to go through a presentation, and I think really what we're updating you on a few things. I guess I'll go through the agenda, table of contents, existing conditions, the proposed site plan, construction phasing we haven't talked about in a little bit, so we want to revisit the construction phasing given that the development's on site. Building plans, which are 99.92% finished, and we have a couple of things that we're working out with Chief Daring and his team. We want to talk a little bit about net zero and how that's been evolving, and then just schedule and budget. So that's sort of the update. So I'll do some of it quickly and some of it I'll slow down. Existing conditions I'm going to do quickly. We know a good amount about the property and where we are, the red rectangle or the area that we're working in, the existing site plan and all the site sections we've looked at cutting through the site, the proposed site plan. I guess the big pieces that I want to point out, the site plan hasn't changed radically, but I guess I don't recall exactly what you guys have seen last, but I'll point out a few things. One is the traffic light is here. The existing traffic light is here. We've moved the whole site development toward the west, right? And so the new line is here. We're developing away from that line a little bit, but fundamentally we've moved it over about 30 feet roughly, and that does a few things, right? It allows us to eliminate the retaining wall on the east that we needed before, because we're raising the grade, and by raising the grade, we would have needed a retaining wall on the east side, but now we're able to do it with a slope as opposed to a retaining wall. So that helps us out financially in a few other ways. We still would have a fence dividing the Nauset Field from the fire department. We don't want student athletes coming up to the fire rescue station, etc. So that's one thing. The existing traffic light is where I started. That curb cut is where the current curb cut is now. The road access road is, and we're moving. So we bend the access road over a little bit, so we don't have to spend money on changing the traffic light, right? So there's a little bit of being cost effective there. We've also sort of straightened out the back here and rotated the outbuilding 90 degrees. It used to face this way on this side, but speaking with the chief, it's obvious, it makes a lot of sense once he says it. They want to deploy straight out that way. It makes perfect sense. So it gives them more working room in that area, which is logical and smart. So we're doing that. So the site, sort of cuts very easily, simply into a giant rectangle. The rest of the property stays the same. We are talking about another traffic light at the secondary entrance, visitor parking along the side here. We put a pinch point in, really just to be able to put some signage up that says authorized vehicles, parking for command staff on this side, 3 spots here, and then the remaining 45 parking spaces are in the back here. You'll see some trees and green space. Those are the beginnings of thinking about any kind of planning board review and how to soften some of that. Those may not be there. They may go away as we start to talk about a solar canopy. So this discussion right now is site plan devoid of solar, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. So those are really the big changes, I think, on site. So that's where that is. The site sections, you kind of see that the through the parking lot, we're talking about that slope as opposed to retaining wall. So that's a development. This is a holdover from previous just sort of building location, but I think we're working there. Construction phasing, we will go through it quickly, but phase one, we get some sheet piling in. The goal of construction phasing is to keep these people working in the fire rescue station and to keep everyone safe so they can get in and out without any question. Maybe we put some parking in the back to clean this up a little bit so that we have some access back there. Note that there's a generator right here that's tied to the building that has impact on some of the things we're thinking about later. Fence the property, put in lay down area, get it developed so that the contractors can come in and work on the overall site. Level the site, take down the existing dental building, level the site, and allow for enough space to do the proper construction for the new building, get the new building put together. Note, I said generator and septic is back in that area, so we're starting to think about that as part of our discussion. I'll also say that we have not formally engaged them in all the details, obviously, yet, but our civil engineer is taking a deeper look at this now as we start to look at this. And so we're going to, as the floor plan settles and as the civil gets deeper into the conversation, we're going to answer Rich's question about depth of leaving the building and possible future sewer connections and such. So that information is not lost. That's still floating in our heads. We take down the existing building, move the fire department into the new building, then take down the existing building, develop the rest of the site, level it, get it all squared away, and then have the develop the parking in the back and the outbuilding and such in the back, and remove the temporary fence, and we're all settled and in there. So we think that we're still we're comfortable about the phasing, that it aligns with our previous phasing ideas, even though the site plan has shifted around a little bit and some of the chess pieces on the board are moving, but we have our arms around the whole thing. Building plans, I won't go through too much detail here unless you'd like me to, but the red area is all of the apparatus and support space. That has not really changed. You'll see a couple of yellow areas that are the transition zones between the red and the green. Those have changed moderately, very slightly. And then you'll see the green area are the living quarters for the department and the office space up above on the upper floor with a mezzanine in between. One thing I didn't point out on the site plan, but there is a staff entrance in the rear of the building back here, and there's a public entrance at the front of the building up here. And so if I just go back for a second so I can give you a proper tour. That staff entrance is right here. This is staff parking. Command staff comes in here. They can go in that door. So that's all staff, and then visitors are here and can go in this front door on that side. So building plans are in good shape. We're right on target programmatically and building wise, and so we're in good shape. Conceptual massing, we've had a lot of. I think we should tie conceptual massing and net zero discussion together, and I think you'll see why in a minute. We did not change the names. There was a discussion about changing the names. We decided to not do that for try and limit the confusion. But the net zero version is the flat roof version. As we've talked about, there are solar panels on both buildings, right? You've got the office and living quarters side. The roof is covered in solar. On the apparatus bay side, the roof is covered in solar. We left solar out around the training area for obvious reasons. Some mechanical units are starting to show up, and they're not defined and definitely not in those locations, but we're starting to remove square footage to net balance where we might be, and we're leaving some roof uncovered for possible, there's things that come through the roofs like vents and pipes and what have you that take out solar, and so we're sort of averaging that out right now by doing this. The building massing is 2 flat roofs. We're starting to shade the front windows with some kind of trellis up above on the second floor here. There's a trellis that runs along the side of the building on that side as well. And so that's sort of the net zero version that we've been calling it. The transitional version hasn't changed very much either. That's another one that we had been talking about, and solar panels on the flat roof, solar panels on the gable roof, and also now added into the discussion are solar panels on the west-facing gable, which is this side. And so we have solar panels on the west side, on the east side, and on the flat. And if you conceptually think about it quickly, when you have 2 flat roofs, you have flat surfaces, but if one of them becomes a triangle, now you have a hypotenuse to that triangle. It's called the hypotenuse effect, where you actually get more solar panels because of the gable as opposed to less on the flat, right? Simple high school geometry that took me a little bit longer to think about when we were doing this, but we got there. And so roof plan wise, solar on the gable side and solar on the apparatus bay side. Again, rooftop units not fully shown, but we're starting to think about that. And the building starts to look like that. Now, those are the 2 pieces two massing studies that we kind of narrowed it down to over the course of a lot of conversation. Net zero is employing renewable energy sources on site to offset all energy use on site, right? The solar requirements, we have roughly a 40,000 square foot building. We have an EUI, an energy use index, that is roughly in these categories 35 kBTU per square foot per year. Annual energy consumption is 425,000 kilowatts per hour. On-site energy needed is roughly 325 kilowatts peak. And the square foot of solar needed for the net zero is 22,000, which is 15 kilowatts per square foot. So it gets complicated very quickly, so I'm going to do it by building. We on the net zero version, the flat roof version, we have roughly 13,000 square feet of PV on the flat roof. The outbuilding has just under 2,000 square feet, 1,900 square feet. And so we're adding a solar canopy of 6,800 square feet in the back. And that math gets us to this 22,000 square feet on the previous slide, right? So hold that for a second. If we go to the transitional, on the building we can fit 16,300 because of the hypotenuse effect that I talked about. The outbuilding 1,900, and the solar canopy reduces to 3,800, right? So if I just do a quick toggle back and forth, you can see that there's more solar on the gable part of the building on the left, and the solar canopy in the back gets smaller, right? Now, what I'll say to you is, I don't know that this is the best place for the solar canopy. We have to think about a few things. It might make sense for the solar canopy to simply extend off of the outbuilding so that we only have 2 solar connections and not 3. But to illustrate the problem, we separated them out because we always talked about a solar canopy. Someone on your committee here asked about the outbuilding and covering that. So we're just trying to, again, giant illustration. So at the end of the day, the transitional version with the gable roof gives us more solar panels than what we're calling the net zero version. So there's a little bit of irony there. But so is that clear? And there's a lot that I'm talking about here, so I want to make sure I'm being clear. Yeah, okay. So schedule and budget. I'm going to bounce over schedule. We're behind schedule. We need some decisions. We got to catch up. We'll go over that. The budget. Maybe you guys can vote on this just the way it is. I can't even see it. I have no idea what this is saying.
We have a hard copy.
You have the hard copy, yeah. So the budget. If we go to the building, the way we've worked this out is that we've talked about the net zero having 730,000 cubic feet, right? Because it doesn't have the roof up above that the transitional does. And the transitional has 800,000 cubic feet, so roughly 75,000 cubic feet more on this portion. If we use the projected hard cost for net zero is $44 million. And if we use $60 a cubic foot, really just some simple math over here, apply that $60 a cubic foot, the transitional is trending toward $48 million. But that needs to be weighed against the fact that we're able to generate more power on the roof, and the solar canopy can be smaller on the transitional version. It also needs to be weighed against the fact that on blush, if this is $44 million, that roof doesn't seem like $4 million worth of work. And so what we're trying to do, in the absence of a final design and a clear 3-week, hard-baked cost estimate, we have a lot of work to do to get there. These numbers are both in the range. They're in the ballpark. And I think we're comfortable, but we need to do a bunch of work to refine those. So we wanted to present these options and talk about all the stuff that I've been talking about so that we can decide on a direction and then go get a cost estimate. Because once we have a decision, we need about 3 weeks worth of time to finish the schematic design. Finishing the schematic design involves us doing a bunch of work, civil getting a clear package together, mechanical, electrical, plumbing putting narratives together, structural engineering putting narratives together, solar design doing a little bit more work. and then we send it to the cost estimators, and they need about 3 weeks to do their job. So, we have some time here as schematic design closes out, but in that time, we can refine these numbers in a much greater way. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I'm not going to go into. I think that's enough for now, and then I'll open it to questions.
Has Rick shown up by any chance online?
There we go.
Hello, Rick. So if you've been with us, Rick, Ted, you're muted. Ted's just finished his presentation.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I've been struggling to get a connection here. I think Ted, the work that Ted and his group has been doing has been fantastic, and we're really at that point where, if you look at the spreadsheet that's been provided, the draft development budget, as Ted had described, we're kind of between, for hard costs, somewhere between 44 and 48 million, 48.3 for the hard cost. We were talking earlier today, Ted and I and Paulo, and it's really hard to believe that the difference, because basically the numbers that were provided in the presentation tonight for showing you the two different concepts were based on cubic foot, just to give you an idea what it looked like without the roof on it, just a flat roof. But as Ted mentioned, we're having a really hard time feeling that it's worth $4 million, because it's not. But we're just trying to get some order of magnitude in front of you. So this budget spreadsheet represents that for the hard cost. We've also added in, as has been suggested, we've added in the land cost to the project. And then at the end of the budget, you'll see a sources section that is backing out the annual town meeting Article 12, which was the $4.5 million for design to bidding. Taking out the Article number 8, which was the initial land purchase, and then the presumed Article 16 for the land purchase that's going to be on the docket next week. So right now we're landing, by utilizing the additional Article 12 funds, we're landing at about 52 million to 59 million rounded. But as Ted had indicated, we really need to zero in on what type of roof structure you'd like to see here. It seems to make sense that the gable roof system is going to provide you more for PV solar and maybe be a little bit more attractive for the neighborhood. So it's really what the goal would be, is to land on a direction that you can recommend to the select board on Wednesday evening, and then allow the design team to move forward so that we can have more informed numbers over the next, I think, Ted, we're talking about a month of effort to come up with more informed numbers. Just to give you an update, the geotech results are in, and we've, there is some material that will need to come out of the site. There's a loose fill for a certain level within the site, and there's some glacial wash that would be relying on, which is a little bit lower in the site. We had a meeting last week with the geotechnical engineer and the civil engineer, and of course the Galante group and ourselves, and just to talk about concept. And by moving the building westerly, as Ted had described, it helps us a lot. We still have a depression that we'd be dealing with, but from a building support perspective, the geotech results were favorable in that sense. So we're really, and one other update, we did have an informational session a couple weekends ago on Saturday. It turned out to be a really good and informative meeting. We had some great feedback from the folks that did attend. Frankly, we would have loved to seen more people there, but I think that the folks that were there were very involved with the process, had a lot of good questions, and it helped us with some of the presentation material that you're seeing today. So that's kind of my take on it. And I apologize for not being able to be there with you today. It's just, it just didn't work out from my schedule perspective. But I plan on being at the select board meeting on Wednesday evening.
Great. So you've put us in an interesting position. I kind of had my mind made up earlier, and now I'm waffling. But why don't we? What? So if we could start with comments with Chief Deering, and then go around. I think I'd just like to hear the committee's comments on what we've heard this evening. And I don't think we're necessarily, you need to make a recommendation right now. We'll do that before, in a little while, but Chief, could we start with you?
Sure. Just a couple things kind of going through the way Ted went through it. First, the site plan. We like how they've oriented the outbuilding. That was some feedback we had with it internally. We've also adjusted the size of that building as well. It's a little scaled back. The traffic light, the second traffic light, kind of on the north side or left side of the new building, is necessary basically to provide coverage for apparatus responding either from any of the driveways, including the apron. So that is an important piece to that. But with the way they have the driveway lined up, it does work that the one that is currently in place could continue to be used. It'd just be an additional piece kind of on the other side of the site. The building plans, like Ted alluded to, are 99.9% there. There's a few minor tweaks that we've made. We've been going back and forth on this pretty heavily, making adjustments on it. And we're really happy with what we're seeing in the progress in the cooperation and collaboration we've had with the Galante Group. From there, as far as the massing and that stuff, I want to make sure that we keep the internal spaces and the operational pieces of the building intact. That's where I land. So I'm going to let the rest of the committee talk about the massing at this point. And that's really what I have at this right now.
Thank you.
I don't want to repeat what the chief said, but I'm really happy with the site layout. I really like how everything's working out there. The fact that we can make use of the existing light, but also reduce the cost by getting rid of the retaining wall, I think is extremely helpful. So very happy at how the site is shaking out. PV, thanks for answering all those questions. I think that was something been asking you is, do we have a sense of our energy consumption, what size panels, just so we can just add that as a factor in our development. One thing doesn't need to be for tonight is just get a good understanding of what we would need for transformers, inverter space on the site, and whether we can actually delineate on the site where that utility infrastructure would be for that system. So we'd get a good sense of where that will be. And then in terms of the massing, is there any benefit with the gable end on the transitional that you see from a mechanical perspective? I think I've asked you this before, but just trying to put together, a pros and the cons of the two options. If it's dead space and it's just going to be wasted space for us to heat and cool throughout the year, obviously that's not too efficient or economical. But if there's actually a design element where you can put some utilities or stuff into that gable end, then I'd like to just hear about it. Other than that, that's it.
Peter?
I'm happy with the site plan. I won't go into that. I think most of that's covered. My problem is with the net zero rendering that we see. it's, the, that southwest corner of the building, I don't think we're there yet. And I'm certainly leaning more towards the transitional. And now that we have, the pitched roof works on the PV side of things. But I think the design approach on that southwest corner of the net zero thing really needs some help. It just doesn't, it's the public portal to this building. And to me, it's coming off kind of like a storefront in New Mexico. But I think the rest of the mass of the building, I think that works. I mean, it's typical, the equipment bays and all the rest of that, but I think we definitely need to do something with that southeast corner, that entrance portion of the building. And whether, at this point, in my mind, the only thing to do here is go with the transitional thing, but maybe there is some intermediate ground there. The other issue I have is, if we're gonna have a PV canopy in the back here, I think that stuff needs to show up on the site plans or whatever we show the public. I mean, that's a pretty substantial structure, and I think it needs to be incorporated into any of the graphic stuff that we have here. I mean, it shows up here, but this is the second time that it showed up in the whole process here. So I think that's, it's important to get that in the graphic agenda. Otherwise, I think we're making good progress here.
Rick? So in the 800K for the net zero premium, things that we've been talking about are purely panels. Is there anything else that goes into that?
So right now, the calculations are done only with panels and not with geo.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not trying not to get too far into the weeds here, but I'm looking at the sheet piling along where the existing road is.
Yes.
And can you go back to that phasing plan? So we're sheet piling on the new building side, right?
We're sheet piling on the new building side of the road, yes.
So we're gonna have a rig sitting where the dentist's office is, it's gonna be gone, and we're gonna be driving sheet piles from that side.
Yes.
Okay. But the road that's being used right now is on the opposite side of the sheet piling.
Yes.
So when we ultimately have to transition and lift that road up.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Where are they going to be moving? How are they gonna be getting in and out with that road gone? Because that road's gonna be gone,
When that road is gone, they're going to be moved into the new building.
but they have to get stuff they gotta get stuff out of here, this way.
Well, they're not going to do that. There's going to be some wonky transition time
Okay.
between moving into the new building and getting the rear portion of the building of the property developed.
Okay.
No way around it.
So that's basically after phase 6.
Yeah, we
It's
didn't.
phase
Yeah,
7.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
That's all I had. Thanks.
So on the net zero, the flat roof structure, you have two structures that appear to provide roof access. Is that correct? Over the living,
It's an elevator.
So these two structures, one of them would be the elevator head house, and I
and the one in the rear?
stair to get up. Yeah. Okay. So the elevator does not go to the roof. It's just an overrun.
Okay.
This is a stair that goes to the roof. I suppose the stair that wraps the elevator could go to the roof. I don't think we've thought the details of that through yet. One of the things I'm concerned about that we haven't studied fully, and I thought this is where Peter was going, is that we're starting to catch a glimpse of things up there, and that's what I'm a little worried about. I don't want to see things from the street, and that's the elevator head house. I don't know if this is the actual height of the actual elevator. And so, and I don't, the parapet wall might change. So I think there's a couple things we got to think through there. Keep in mind, none of this is a final design. And Peter, I get your point while I'm talking about, this needing development regarding it looking like a Southwest store. I think the chief is going to sell pottery to earn some money here, but it's in process. But I guess I would ask you to look at the overall massing flat roof versus gable and trust that we will work with you as we develop these things so things aren't visible from the street and it doesn't look like a Southwest grocery store, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question, but yeah.
It does, and
Yeah.
and so the the air handling equipment and things like that,
Don't
that
know
all
yet.
goes in underneath the gable.
On the other side, so there's going to be some air handling units on the apparatus bay side, right? The exhaust extraction system is not a small piece. There's going to be some exhaust fans, some piping, some things that are going to come out of the roof here. The air handlers on the rooftop units on the residential side. There'll be some things on this roof as well.
I'm just trying to.
Some of it will be under this roof. I think that was Rich's question. We may be able to put some of this under in an attic space here, but not all of it, right? If we use, again, it depends on the kind of systems, but if we use split systems, we have to put compressors outside. If we have a larger system, we have to put compressors outside. So there's going to be some of it's going to be outside, some of it's going to be inside. Where it lands, I don't know. I want to hide all of it as much as you guys do. We just have to figure out where that's going to go.
And then lastly, you show a covered entrance for the public.
Yeah.
That's right up against the building setback line, and in Orleans, if you have a covered entrance, it has to comply with the 25-foot setback. So if, you might have to change your thought with perhaps receding the entrance a little bit so you can get out of the weather when the public is coming in. Because it appears we're right at the setback line for the front of the building. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
David, I've got one other quick question.
Sure.
Do we know how much zoning relief we need now?
You're probably gonna need
I mean, it looks like we've hit all the setbacks except for the storage building and.
Height and storage.
Do we know where we are height-wise or anything like that?
I think
Coverage?
I'd ask if we can answer that question at a subsequent meeting, because I don't think I have an analysis, and I'd like to give you a full answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, and let the record show, Mark showed up at about 20 minutes after 5.
I showed up.
But you showed up. I just wanted.
Yeah, my question kind of echoes what Rich had brought up in terms of going with the gable construction type. We have all that attic space there. How much equipment can we put up there that would not be outside? I'm not a big fan of flat roofs. I understand the ability to put the large solar array on the equipment side of the building, that bay with a flat roof there. Not a problem, but penetrations on flat roofs are always problematic, and you just alluded to, Ted, that there's probably gonna be extraction equipment on that roof
Sure.
at some point that doesn't show up in these drawings. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can put a lot of stuff in the attic space of the gable where exits through the roof towards that flat transition area above the ambulance bays there. That is that lower roof between the two main sections of the building, that would tend to hide it from public view as you're coming down Eldridge Parkway from either direction. I don't know if that's possible. It depends on those roof lines, I guess. So
Yeah, I think some of that is possible, and I think some of it needs to be thought through to make that happen. But I'll just
zoom in here for a second. If I'm looking at, oops, I think yeah, there it is. You know, I've got restrooms up here on the second floor. That means I have vents sticking out of the roof on that corner, right? And I won't comment on any other buildings, but I know that there was a comment here made about the police station, the amount of venting facing the street. So I think that's something that I want to try and manage as we go forward. The elevator head house would be hidden in the gable. There will be some poke-throughs, and so you know, there are going to be spots on the roof. I think we're all aware of that, and we will try and conceal them. But I think to answer this question about can we put things really on this volume, above this volume, which is where the center flat roof piece is, I think the answer is yes. I'm not exactly sure what and how all up, you know, what that equipment will be feeding. I can come down, you know, through that roof and into this area. It's actually, this is going to have a good size HVAC unit because it's a room that's either going to have 2 people or 60 people, and I have to accommodate that with variable airflow. So maybe on the top of this roof there is a rooftop unit, but it's set back, and I can manage some of those things. So those are the next set of questions that we have to answer once we settle this. And again, happy to report back and show you where every pipe is going to go. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think, what would be helpful for everyone, especially as we go to town meeting, when we look at the basically $4 million difference in price between the flat roof and the gable roof, is how accurate is that number? And you alluded to the fact that you just kind of base it on cubic footage, and you can't conceive of it being actually 4 million more just to do a gable roof. It might be lower.
Yeah, I mean, I think one clear way to paint the picture is that when we did the estimate, for the project, if you recall, all of this work was not here. The town had not acquired or told us that they were acquiring this property. The estimate included a roadway through here and rebuilding the OES entrance. And so we're no longer affecting the OES property. And so in order to accurately estimate this, given the recent acquisition proposal of this and the redevelopment that we're doing here, we need time.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. We just have to work on this, and you know, happy to come back with any of those answers. I think the numbers are going to tweak down a little bit. I just can't commit to you until we spend the time.
So I'm just kind of looking at balancing whatever the additional cost may be for gable versus flat roof with the ability to hide a lot of stuff and have fewer penetrations through the roof. You know, I think there are advantages to having that gable roof beyond just having more solar array capacity. So I'd be willing to really go in that direction, I think. It would be the best move. The other question I had was just, initially, when we were talking about the 3-level building, and we talked about the additional storage space that would be available in that lower level behind the garage space for the non-emergency vehicles, and I asked the chief about how valuable that storage space might be, especially when you project into the future, 20 or 30 years, and the workspace and storage and all that down there, and yeah, but we were gonna have to give that up when we went to the 2-story building as opposed to the 3-level building. And we talked about having the capacity to have more storage space in that outbuilding. And now we're looking at the potential of having solar arrays not only on the roof of that outbuilding, but as a canopy. And I don't know if we want to look at, as we go down the road a little further, having a larger outbuilding with the solar arrays as opposed to the outbuilding and a canopy. having one larger building, if that would be advantageous to us at some point?
It's a good question and comment. I think the, for illustration purposes, we were showing it like this, but I would see this as being one solar array. Maybe it goes all the way across. We'll have to figure that out. And maybe it's a solar array that travels across with the ability to expand this building underneath it in future, right? So you sort of have a roof and then you build across in
You're gonna
future.
close the space and,
Because to build this solar array, we need foundations, we need columns, we need lateral support. If it was on the ground, you wouldn't need any, you need a minor foundation. But we're starting to build a roof here for that anyway, so yeah.
okay, that's all I got.
So to segue on that, there could be land immediately north of the old fire station, and it could possibly go on the ground.
For sure.
I mean, I don't think you have to have it over a parking lot. And that could still happen and not cause disturbance to the tennis court and things like that. So perhaps keep that in mind.
Yep, okay.
Kathy?
I guess to continue on the canopy conversation, if it was, if it was to go there in that drawing, is it eliminate any parking spaces? There
No,
was-
at the moment, it doesn't eliminate parking spaces. The only thing that I'm concerned about that we haven't talked through and thought through is that we want to pitch it this way toward us, which is also the way the vehicles leave the garages. So I want to have a think about that before we commit, but yeah. So, but no, I think we can put a canopy all the way across and column down and have parking in between it without a problem.
Yep. One of the other questions I had was, I don't know if this is relevant yet, but the roof material underneath, at one point, one of the designs had the metal roof.
I
on
think
it.
actually, on this, if on the Gable version, we would still have metal roof because it's actually really easy. The solar guy was really happy because you basically just clamp on to the standing seam and it holds the panels really well. So that's an easy system. Contractors will love it. That's the best way to
Yeah,
do it.
that's a good, those
Yeah.
roofs will last forever too, so,
Yep.
okay.
We do, on the flat roof, we have a combination of penetrations and ballast. I think I might have said to you that we only can have penetrations, but when we had a conversation recently with solar, it's a combination of penetrations and ballast. So there's a little fewer penetrations than what I had said last time on the flat roof. But
Okay.
just to follow up on that.
All my other questions were answered already.
So, Rick, you just had a comment?
If we were looking to save money, getting rid of the metal roof and going to an asphalt shingle would be.
Yes, but then you've got a
especially on
more
Gable and stuff.
complicated solar panel fixing and penetration. So there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs. Yeah.
And metal roofs last longer too, don't they?
Yeah.
Emily?
I'm just, I guess, still trying to understand. So is the gable roof require more energy on site?
I think the answer is no, because that space is not occupied, but we are going to have more volume in there. So there's going to be a little bit of energy used. We sent both sets to the green engineer and our solar guy, Solar Design Associates, and they were comfortable with using that factor that they used at this level of development. Once an energy model is developed, then we'll know precisely.
But it's still, basically, it can still be net zero considering you get some more panels on there.
That's our goal, is to get to net zero, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it also seems like with that hypotenuse effect, even if you have more panels, fewer of them are going to get sun at the same time. Like the flat roof, you're getting the sun all day long. So you're losing some energy, but it seems like you think you're gaining enough.
They felt like they were gaining enough. They ran it through a model, and he just texted me the name of the model, but they ran it through a model, and they felt like they were getting enough. It's a Massachusetts thermodynamic nuclear, I don't know exactly what, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then my other question was just a little more for all of us and just generally as we talk about this in town meeting. I'm definitely concerned about like I almost feel like we should, whichever way we decide to go tonight, we should give a less detailed picture at town meeting than more, with the concern that people are gonna keep going for the details, and the details aren't there yet. And so, like, I think it should almost be just like a big box, or not a box, but, you know, without the, like, Peter's concerns or something, like, I think we could get really bogged down in a conversation like that we don't want to get bogged down in at this point of things. So that's just a thought for, I don't know what people are thinking for that, but, and I know it's not up to us. It's just a thought.
Mark?
Well, you know, I would say that clearly hearing comments here, there's pros and cons to each of these, right? And I have a hard time making a decision. I know that's not what I'm doing right now, but just thinking about what our actions are tonight and the idea that we're sending a recommendation to the select board for discussion for their Wednesday meeting, I wonder if part of our conversation leads us to recommending both options as something for the select board to consider, because we know that there are pros and cons to both. Just throwing that out there.
Emily?
I do know Ted just said they really need direction from us.
Well, the select board makes the decision.
Well,
That-
right.
That was my thought, is that
Oh, you mean like
we
us.
vetted, yeah, but essentially thinking about the fact that we've gone through this process, we've looked at both of these options, we're hearing about the pros and cons. I don't think either of them is a bad direction, right? So, you know, we've heard from the public about concerns about the costs related to this project. So that's just a thought to consider.
I kind of think that the way that the select board eventually couches the whole thing, we're going to town meeting for up to 60 million, correct?
There is an agenda item on the Wednesday meeting
Well,
that
wait, excuse me, yeah.
potentially could change, but yes, that is as we stand right now.
And anybody that I've met in public that's aware that I'm on this committee has pointed out how much they don't like flat roof structures to me. Or Mark's reasoning, you know, a lot of different reasons. So I don't really think that, I think we need to follow our charge. I'm not really interested in punting this to the select board. I think that we should, as a building committee, we should vote and vote one way or on one design or the other. I think it's become awkward, Ted, now that this $4 million figure isn't really a $4 million figure anymore. And I met with you today, I was going to vote for the flat roof building, clearly because of cost. And I think it's incumbent upon us. I mean, we haven't even gotten into value engineering yet or anything like that. I was going to go with the flat roof, but if what I'm hearing now with the panels and with the questioning the cost, I'm waffling.
But I agree with you. I think we need to vote. I mean, select board can say no,
Well, they can do
because
whatever-
otherwise, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
I have other things to do today, so.
Speaking of the select board, Evan, would you like to say something?
Just wanted to add, and thanks for your good work, Select Board does rely on each of you, we really do. And the one thing I heard, and thanks for asking the question about the gable from an energy loss standpoint, which is kind of another hat I wear in consulting, but if Ted can come through and bring a 35 EUI, the energy use intensity for either design, you have not only a net zero building from a PV standpoint, but you're building it to meet or exceed the Mass Save standards, which is what's required for public safety. So I have no qualms either building. I think Mark's absolutely right, that having a little attic space gives you more flexibility. I've been up in them, inspecting equipment and heat recovered ventilation. All this stuff that makes the building net zero has to go somewhere. So, you know, either recommendation you make,
I think we will tell the community, honestly and directly, the deliberate process you've gone through, and it's the right process. I don't see either choice you make, and I'm fine to vote whichever recommendation you make, including if you say, as Mark did, keep them both open for another day or two after town meeting, because he wants an answer.
Well, you guys want an answer, because we gotta get a shovel in the ground, but yeah.
I think I was only suggesting it as an option, but I think it makes sense that the committee makes a recommendation for sure.
Agreed. Any other comments from people before we vote? Emily?
Just to think this forward a little bit, what if it seems like people aesthetically at least lean, and the hiding the stuff, lean toward the transitional or the gable roof, and then what if it looks like that will be the more expensive one? I don't think the public's gonna be super happy if we ended up choosing one that was $4 million more. If this does, like, so maybe we can say, like, how do we deal with that, I guess is my question.
I'll answer that it will be the more expensive one, but I don't believe it's gonna be $4 million more. I think it's gonna be more, but not $4 million more. But I wouldn't stand here comfortably talking about it if I didn't think it was within the reach of the overall magnitude of budget you guys are trying to talk to the public about and get past. So I'm comfortable recommending that version, that approach, if that helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I mean, I guess my comments just on both of them. I mean, I do like the transitional. I do like the green, the red separation. I mean, we talked so much about the green, the red, the needs for the fire station to be separated by their exposure. And, you know, I think this represents, you know, that thinking is that we have basically all the green zone would be under a gable. The red zone would have the flat roof, probably better exhaust. The only thing that I'm thinking about, which is a downside of transitional, is the additional construction cost of it. I mean, not only is it just more cubic feet, but, you know, it's likely going to require a crane to come in and place all the truss systems that comes in. You know, you get the storage of the truss systems coming in. So those just complicating factor of actually building this thing versus a flat roof, which would be relatively easy, you wouldn't need the big equipment. But with you know, such a big roof and a truss system, it's just going to make the construction a little bit different. So, I mean, I can see why the $4 million price tag would be there, would be because of the constructability. But I think it does give us a little more flexibility in terms of sprinkler system, where to hide the piping in the sprinkler system. Obviously, you know, the elevator shaft could be hidden within a gable, you know, roof structure. So I think with that, I mean, I would be okay to move forward with a transitional recommendation at this point.
Rick Pomeroy, do you have any additional comments for us before we make a vote?
No, I honestly think you've covered everything. And part of it is regardless, and I shouldn't say regardless of the cost, but part of it is aesthetic. And I think that, I've been an advocate of the flat roof all along, but I also can see how the transitional will give you a little bit more from an aesthetic perspective. Like we talked about earlier, the difference between the two structures really can't be $4 million. It really depends upon what you, the committee, decides. I think I've talked to Ted about it. I can go either way. I think he can go either way. I think everyone pretty much can go either way on this.
I think one last thing I want to say, if I might, is that the process that we need to go through is to get the final cost estimate. If at the end of schematic, if you move with the transitional, and at the end of schematic design, the cost estimate comes in and it's too expensive, losing that roof and going back to the net zero is an easy step. So working backwards is an easy step that way. That's what I would say.
That was a question.
You've convinced me then.
And I'm not pushing. I just
Rick,
think it's.
I think both you and Rick, we value your comments. So I'd like to entertain a motion to vote on a design.
I will move that this committee forwards a recommendation to the select board to move forward with the transitional roof design for the fire station as presented tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments before we vote? I'm going to start with you, Mark.
Aye.
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 I am not going to vote. Not ready yet.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the vote passes 7 in favor, 1 abstention. Or is it 8 in favor, 1 abstention? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 in favor, 1 abstention. Phew. So I feel better knowing that, hearing from you that if push comes to shove and the cost is significant, we can go back to a flat roof.
Right.
That's on us too.
Yeah.
But we would have to make that decision, and I feel better about it now.
I think it's the right decision for this phase and to get us to move forward, to get to a point where we can come back to you and say, the cost estimate came in at X. How do you want to handle this? And it may be keep going forward, everything's great. It may be lose the roof. And schematic design, there's not a huge investment because I don't have a structural engineer designing the full roof. I have them writing a narrative about what that roof would be, trusses or some version. It's very easy to go back and at design development and say, okay, now it's going to be bar joists and steel. So it's an easier move. And so we would know more. We're going to have better information once we get through that process. And I think that's what I'm trying to get us to, is better information. So
Thank you. So when do we, should we have our next meeting, Ted?
I would say 6 weeks after the select board confirm your decision so that we have a direction forward. Or maybe it's 6 weeks from town meeting. I don't know what the next piece is, but I'm assuming, maybe I'm going to answer with a question, but I'm assuming that the select board make a decision on Wednesday and we're given the green light to get schematic design done and get cost estimate done. And after that process, it would make sense to get together. Once we have cost estimate to bring to you and say, here's our number.
So June 8 or June 8 or 15?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
I'm going to be out of town for both of those dates, so.
Well, then we can't.
Peter, you're going to be chairing the meeting.
I'll be here.
You have a preference, Ted, between the 8th or the 15th?
I'm going to aim for the 15th. I'm at a conference the week of the 8th also. But I'm going to aim for the 15th if we can, and then, and we'll have cost estimates by then,
Great.
assuming the select board give us a green light. Okay.
It's a little unusual to ask if there are any comments at the end of the meeting, but are there any comments? Tony, I know you wanted to say something.
Tony Pearl, Pride's Path. As a citizen, I'm listening to what you guys have been saying, and I think you're talking yourselves into the gabled roof. And I am worried about all the other things that are coming up for the town to spend money on. And I think that money is scarce and will be more scarce the more projects we have. And I would hope that the recommendation that Ted made of if it's expensive, I hope you'll consider that, because I think 4 million on this project isn't so much, but 4 million in light of all the things that are coming down the road, all the projects, is a lot.
Thank you, Tony. Evan?
Thanks again, Mr. Chair. Just a quick one, and it's not related to this at all, but I just wanted to get on the record and let you guys know at our last select board meeting, and you'll see it on the agenda for this coming week, we also have the write-up that was requested of Ted and Rick Pomeroy that puts to bed the demolition issue of the existing building. Ted, Rick, thank you very much for that. It was really, really well done. And I think the select board, looking at my fellow member, will be happy to vote and support your recommendation that demo has got to happen. So,
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Rick Pomeroy.
Go ahead, Rick.
Just quickly, maybe this is to the select board, but what in the way of presentation will the select board need from the team on Wednesday night?
I can circle back with Rick if you want.
Just this presentation, Rick. And Mark is going to circle back with you and Ted before the meeting.
Okay, terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes.